Welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, the host of Forte Catholic. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. Thanks for choosing to spend some time with me. I have some thoughts today about the readings from this past weekend, the year of our Lord 2024, the 12th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Last week's show with Catherine Whitaker, we talked about we rated our favorite readings at Mass, like first reading, second reading, Psalm, Gospel. We ranked them. So that was absolutely on my mind when I went to Mass this weekend. So I have some thoughts about that. I also want to talk a little bit about duplication of mission. So that is the plan today. If you enjoy Forte Catholic, the easiest thing you can do to support the show and to show that you love us is to make sure that you subscribe wherever you are listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, those weird podcast apps that you guys like, or especially over on our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe. And, while you're there, leave a little 5-star review saying how good looking the host is, because everybody likes to see that lie whenever they come up to the show and are quickly surprised to see that you were lying with your 5 stars and saying that I'm good looking. So appreciate that in advance. So today I want to talk about yesterday, because I'm recording this on Monday of, I don't know how weeks work. Is today well, that's not helpful. Today's the solemnity of St. John the Baptist. The 12th week in Ordinary Time? Is that what Sunday was? Okay, so Sunday does start the weeks. I never knew if Sunday started the week or ended the week until just now. I've worked for the church for over half my life, and I don't know these things. So anyway, this week's readings were a lot about storms. I would imagine you picked that up because, as Catherine mentioned last week, there's typically a theme running through the readings. So Job was about storms. The Psalm had a mention of storms. The second reading wasn't about any of that because that's what Catherine mentioned last time, is that it very rarely has to do with the theme. And then the gospel was about storms. So the first reading I thought was pretty funny because it's from the story of Job. And most of us know the story of Job. Like even non-Catholics, non-Christians often know at least the basics of the story of Job. But we don't all know all the intricacies of Job. And that's essentially me. Like, I've read the book, but it was a long time ago. So I don't remember all, like, when stuff happens and whatever. So essentially, what do you know about the book of Job? You know that Job has a bunch of good things in his life and everything's going great. And then Satan's like, hey, God, can I toy with your man down there? And God's like, sure, why not? Which is a choice that I've never understood, but that's why he's God and I'm not. And so Satan messes with him. He takes away his sheep and his goats and then his wives and his kids, and everything starts being very terrible. And that's the story of Job. And oh, poor Job, right? As long as he doesn't deny God, he gets to keep losing things, which same. I can totally relate to that these days. But this reading is very strange because that's like the story that we know. And this whole reading is essentially God just yelling at Job, saying, like, were you there when I made the ocean? Were you there when I told it where to start and where to stop? Were you there when I made waves? No. So shut up. Like, that's clearly not the New American Bible reading that they read to us in Mass on Sunday, but it's absolutely what I heard. So I'm chuckling at that, thinking about, like, Job is struggling with everything that's been going on in his life. And he's like, God, why is everything bad? I thought I was your servant. And God's like, shut up. I made the ocean. Deal with it. Which is how I often feel like God is talking to me whenever things aren't going very, very well. So he's just bragging about his ocean creating, which is very funny because I'm sure we all have friends like that. Like, you're complaining, you're like, this isn't going well in my life, blah, blah, blah. And somebody else is like, I just got a promotion. I think you should be happy because I'm happy and everybody else is happy. Okay, so then we get to the gospel, and it's the gospel story of Jesus and the disciples and a bunch of other people were on this boat. And the storm gets so bad in the Sea of Galilee, and the boat is about to capsize with everyone going to die, including Jesus, who is asleep. Which is, I just saw a tweet today from a priest where, like, 2 of the other gospel writers just say that Jesus was sleeping. And then Mark is just like, in all caps, he had a pillow, which is just a very funny, like, detail to include. Mark was really like, we really want you to know that Jesus was, like, super comfy in the middle of this storm. So we know the story. Like, Jesus, they wake him up and he's like, calm down, guys. It's just a storm. And he goes out and he's just like, Wingardium Leviosa to the storm. That's not the right spell. And he didn't use a spell. So why do I even care correcting myself? But he says expecto patronum, and Jesus' patronus, which would definitely be a lamb. Jesus' patronus is a lamb. A lamb goes out of his wand. Never mind. And the storm goes away and everything's fine. And all I could think about was how the theme of this week's readings, where God doesn't care about your storm. He doesn't care about the storm in your life, which is, pretty clearly I picked up pretty quickly from that first reading. Like, God, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about your crap you're going through because, Job, your life sucks. Well, I made oceans, so deal with it, right? And then I get to the gospel and I'm like, God doesn't care about the disciples' storm either. And then I was like, well, what does he care about? And I'm like, okay. This has got to go somewhere, right? The gospel and Mass isn't just all bad news. There's got to be some good news, right? Like literally the worst day on our calendar, Good Friday, we call Good Friday, even though it's mostly bad news. And so I'm like, okay, God doesn't care about your storms, but he does care about you. And he cares about you in the midst of your storms. I'm like, okay, Jesus, I see what you're saying, right? And then when it came to, this has been a theme over the last few weeks. I've been talking about some of the struggles that I've had with just kind of money struggles and things being slow this summer and us wanting to sell our house. And it would actually be a huge financial benefit for us to be able to sell our house. It's just not selling very quickly. And so I heard this story of I think I've felt for a long time that God doesn't care about the stuff I'm going through. My life's mostly fine. Yeah, a storm pops up. And God's just like, deal with it. I built storms. I built oceans. And you're fine. You leave me alone. I have bigger fish to fry, right? And he can multiply those fishes. What do you think about that? That might be a good segment for some other day. But the gospel story, the important thing is Jesus was asleep. And I actually like to pretend that he was only half asleep. He was kind of doing that thing you do with kids where you kind of leave one eye kind of open. Where you're like, let's see if they come ask me. Let's see if they come ask Dad for help. And sure enough, they go and they ask. And they're like, Jesus, will you save our life? And he's like, of course. Chill out, right? He goes out and he calms the ocean, right? So even with little stuff, it was just confirmation for a conversation we had about a month ago on the show of I feel bad asking prayer, going to God in prayer for stuff that isn't my spiritual life, right? To help me grow in holiness or to help me be a better loving husband or father, those seem like good requests. But when I come with God, could you bring me some more money? God, could you help me sell my house? God, could you help me book some more events so I can share the gospel and make some money there too? Can you help me with those things seem selfish. And God doesn't care as much, it's this balance between our human needs and our human wants and desires. And then our spiritual holy needs and wants and desires. And for some reason, I still have this place where I'm stuck, where I'm God only cares about the spiritual, when clearly he doesn't, right? He waits for the apostles to come and ask hey, can you help us out a little bit? And he's like, sure. And then he does it immediately, right? So God doesn't care about our storms. He doesn't care about the storm. He cares about us in the midst of our storms, and he wants us to ask for help. So on this kind of dichotomy of the human and the spiritual, this saint quote that's been popping through my head for the last, few weeks, is primarily because I wear this shirt from my friend Dustin Bertrand. He's been on the show before, and he gave me this shirt. And the reason I wear it so much is, one, because I like it, but two, because he gave me a triple XL, so I've been able to grow into it over the last few years. But the shirt says, God made self-driven. And I've gotten some questions when I wear the shirt. People are like, what do you mean self-driven? Why are you making this about you, right? And I've actually used this saint quote that I'm about to share with you as this is essentially the exact same thing that St. Ignatius of Loyola said. He said, work as if everything depended on you. Pray as if everything depended on God. And I think just because of who I am and my upbringing and my work ethic, it's the work as if everything depended on me side is the side that I tend to lean on, where I'm I'm going to work to get this done. I'm going to work and then I get to moments right now where I'm at my wit's end and I'm I've done everything that I've tried. I can do. I've done it. Is there more I could have done? Sure. But like I've done everything reasonably and even a little bit more. I've gone the extra mile on a bunch of different things, and things are just still kind of okay, right? They're not terrible, but they're not bad. I'm still in the midst of this storm, and I'm doing my part. But I think the part that I've been missing is the praying as if everything depended on God. I'll pray, but more as like a last resort, or like kind of the cherry on top to my work, right? So I think I'm doing the work as if everything depends on me very well, but often to the detriment of the pray as if everything depended on God, right? So that's something that has been kind of made pretty evident to me, and I need to work through. So I joked earlier that Catherine last week was saying that the second reading isn't her favorite of the 4 readings because it tends not to connect with the theme. And this week's theme absolutely was storms. Well, the second reading was how we're all dead in Christ and we all died anyway. So essentially how it connects is all this stuff is gonna go away. You've already died with Christ and he gave you a new life. So chill, because you're actually already dead. In the middle of the storm where you're worried about dying, you're actually already dead because Christ died for you and then came back to life. So I'm going to take a small little break here, and then we're going to talk about duplication of mission. And the break that we're going to take is, I have been pretty open about, how things have been pretty financially tight. And I have some good news in that respect, because the 2 primary ways that you can help us out, or that anybody can help us out really, is one, just by listening to the show, especially on our YouTube channel, because, if people watch videos on YouTube, it'll force Google to give us some of their money. And that's, you're doing it for free, but it's actually helping us out financially, right? So I was talking to somebody the other day about weird penances, like what's the weirdest penance you ever got? And, maybe it was like, do 10 jumping jacks. I saw a grassroots Catholic who's been on the show before too. He said he got one that was, choose your own penance, which is strange, right? Especially if you're scrupulous. You're like, I must, make a pilgrimage to Mecca and convert it to Catholicism or whatever, right? So a strange penance, if you're looking for a strange penance for your summer, my penance right now is doing this show. It's in the June Texas heat. It's very hot right now. But if you want to do a special penance, go to the Forte Catholic YouTube channel, find a playlist, especially like the Forte Catholic podcast playlist, or our Catholic Foundations, like our teaching series, or our talks. And just hit play on that, and then just walk away from your computer or walk away from your iPad and just let it play all day. Great way to get us watch hours. And it only costs you like 10% battery. Very, very good. The other way that you can help us out is by directly donating. ForteCatholic.com/donate. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, which means all of your donations are tax deductible. And because we're a Catholic organization, it buys you time out of purgatory. That's absolutely what the Catechism says. Nobody look it up, but it buys you time out of purgatory. Whether it's half a second or half a year, that's between you and the Lord. I didn't barter a specific rate of return on that with him. But we could really use your support, especially for, like this summer and typically around, Christmas time. Anytime there's a big break in events, or people are kind of taking it at a little slower pace, because our podcasts slow down. So the biggest ways we make money is through our donors, through editing podcasts, and then through speaking at events and leading worship. So during the summer, events slow down. A lot of people take time off of their podcasts. So like that editing work slows down quite a bit. So if you want to join our support team, if you like what we're doing, if you want to support a good Catholic mission to evangelize people online, ForteCatholic.com/donate. You can give a one-time donation to help us out this summer. Or if you want to help us not have light times again, you can join our monthly donation team, and that would be very appreciated. The thing that has been going well over the last couple of weeks when it comes to this kind of stuff is that events seem to be picking up. For the first time in my career, I have actually sought out events. Usually when they would come in, just be like people word of mouth finding out about me. Hey, you want to come to this event? Well, that was drying up. So I was like, hey, I want to do this. I think I'm pretty good at it, and I could use the money. Let me reach out to people I've done events for in the past. Let me start reaching out to some diocesan offices. And lo and behold, it's working. So one, if you want to bring me out for an event at your parish or your diocese or your Catholic school or your mom's group or whatever, I'd love to do that. And also thank you guys for your prayers, who have been praying for me over the last couple of months as I've been sharing this stuff, because it seems to be working. There's a few things that have been booked, a few things that are in the works right now. Maybe going over to the East Coast a little bit, maybe going a few things here in the diocese, maybe going over to New Mexico here pretty soon. It's all exciting, and hoping it all comes through. But that's another way that I can help you and you can help me. Okay, that's the end of our little commercial break there. Okay, we'll talk about duplication of mission. So I wanted to share a cool moment that I had over the last few weeks. It's probably 2-3 weeks ago, in regards to something that I was kind of down about a few weeks ago. Like, there's been positive movement towards the good. And that's with I was just kind of down about our mission here, right? Like us producing podcasts, producing videos, traveling and speaking, the money being tight, like all that kind of stuff that I've mentioned again today, just kind of all hit at once. And I was feeling really down about it. It's like, do I just need to close shop and go find a secular job? Do I need to move on to something else? Do I need to, just completely revamp something? And there's been a lot of people that have reached out and said very encouraging things, and things like, even donating to say like, hey, we want you to stay in this. We think you're good at it. Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. But one of the things that I was feeling weird about was just like a duplication of mission. Meaning that are there other people who have Catholic podcasts? Yes. Are there other people who do Catholic videos? Yes. Are there other Catholic speakers? Are there other Catholic musicians? Yes. And there seem to be more and more popping up every day. And yet, people are listening to the same 5 shows. They're booking the same 5 speakers. And I'm not one of those people, right? So I was just feeling the whole joke. Everybody has a podcast. Even though I've been doing this for 8 years now, it's like I was feeling down about how are we ever going to continue to grow or break through or all these sorts of things. And I was kind of feeling down about, everybody else is doing this and a lot of people are doing it better and bigger and all these sorts of things. And it seems like a lot of people that are doing it bigger have more money so that they can promote it. And that's how they're getting big so quickly, right? When we're just small grassroots thing that started with 1 listener, and then we got up to, we have almost 750,000 people listen to this show. It's grown on its own, but the growth has slowed a little bit, right? So for the first time in the show's history, the last 6 months, we've been dipping in listener numbers, which is discouraging, but it's also something that I haven't ever dealt with before, because for 8 years, we have just been constantly growing. So it is this kind of battle between my pride, humility, my desire to provide for my family, obviously, my professional aspirations. All these things have been kind of coming to a clash. And then the cool thing that happened is I got invited to this random Zoom meeting by a guy that I just met a few months ago. I actually met him because I was going to give a talk at, ironically enough, to a mom's group at his parish, and I met him beforehand, right? So he invited me to this Zoom meeting, and I was like, I'm not really sure what this is, but I'll join in. And it ended up being a meeting of a bunch of Catholic podcasters, speakers, leaders, doing very similar work to myself, with the head of like the communications office of the Vatican, which like I was, when I realized that, I was like, what am I doing here? Right? Like, why am I in a Vatican meeting right now? What's going on here? And it ended up being just like, he was just this super genuine, nice priest who apparently in the communications world, he's like this huge deal, right? Over in the Vatican. And I'm just this little guy in Texas. Well, I'm a large person, but a small personality. That's not true. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, not popular, but I mean, I'm large in every other meaning of the word. He was just very kind, and he listened to everybody. There's probably about 10 of us on the call, and everybody got to introduce themselves. He got to introduce himself, share what he's doing, and essentially just like, the Vatican looking for good evangelization online. And, we, all these other people, a lot of whom I knew already, old friends of mine, some people who I even work on their show, like, right. So everybody went around and shared who they are, what they do. And I was noticing that a lot of us do very similar things. And that's where I started thinking about this duplication of mission, right? Where I was feeling down about duplication of mission, but I realized that like literally the entire Catholic Church is built on duplication of mission. Every single Catholic parish, their mission is to evangelize, make disciples, and to teach and preach to everybody in their parish boundaries, right? Which means that every parish has masses, every parish has confessions, every parish has RCIA. The majority of parishes have a youth group. Majority of parishes have, bereavement ministry, and there's a duplication of almost every mission at almost every parish in every city in the world, right? And here I am feeling all down about myself because I was like, oh, I do the same thing as a couple hundred people on the internet. It's like, good. Could you imagine if there was only like 200 good Catholic parishes? Like there's like 200 good, probably 10 great, 200 good Catholic podcasts out there, right? So is this just this weird realization about how Catholic it is to have a duplication of mission? It feels strange, and it can feel like there's some weird personal things and some weird pride things, but ultimately, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing what God called me to, and just because I'm having a rough couple of months doesn't mean that God is calling me away from that or wants me to leave what I'm doing, right? There is this duplication of mission, and yet I have found my niche, right? Like there's not many people editing as many podcasts and helping other people produce other Catholic podcasts as we are, right? There's only a few Catholic comedy and entertainment podcasts, right? There's only, there's a lot of speakers. There's a lot of musicians, but it's like, there's only a few people doing exactly what I do. Right. So it was just really helpful. Like one, to just kind of realize it's like, while I'm feeling down, I get invited to like a Vatican officials meeting, which was just really neat. Right. But also like just realizing that duplication of mission is okay and actually good and built in to what we're doing. So that was just really encouraging. If you guys could continue to pray for me as I just kind of wrestle through some of these things, there's the practical ways that you can help too. And in addition to your prayers of donating money or just watching our YouTube videos, sharing this with people, all of that stuff can help us, especially in the slow summer season. But I appreciate you guys watching and listening today. If you enjoyed it, comment, let us know, share it on social media, hit the subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies. We do appreciate you, love you, and we will see you next time. Bye.